One of the other most important nutrients for organ meats, and it does have a relation to bone health and osteoporosis, is vitamin A. Vitamin A is actually really important for bone health and osteoporosis because if you have a deficiency of vitamin A, that can be associated with an increased risk of osteoporosis, but also vitamin A plays a role in bone turnover, the process of bone remodeling, so bone being broken down and bone being formed. So organ meats are a rich source of vitamin A, and vitamin A is great for a ton of other areas for your health, but specifically for bone health, that's another vote for it.
Absolutely. Yes.
If you haven't done so already, go ahead and click that subscribe button down below. It's a little red button. You punch that, and it's going to notify you every time we put out a new episode that can help you improve your bone health. And then also, if you haven't done so already, head over to BoneCoach.com, sign up for the free 7-day osteoporosis kickstart. That's going to walk you through everything you need to be doing right now to get on the path to improvement and stronger bones. After you do those two things, go ahead and press play on this episode, and I'll see you inside.
Welcome to this episode of the BoneCoach Show. Joining us today to explore how a celebrity chef is now helping children, parents, and grandparents get more of nature's multivitamins to heal their bodies and restore their health. James Berry's 20 plus years in the culinary field started as a private chef cooking for celebrities such as Tom Cruise, Mariska Hargitay, George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Barbra Streisand, and John Cusack. Most recently, James launched his first functional food product, Pluck, an organ-based seasoning. It's the first of its kind and an amazingly easy and delicious way for people to get organ meats into their diet. James is also a published cookbook author, having co-authored the recipes in Margaret Floyd's book, Eat Naked, and Dr. Alejandro Hunger's book, Clean 7. He also authored the cookbook, The Naked Foods Cookbook, and he is the host of the podcast, Everyday Ancestral. James Berry, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
Thanks so much for being here. Now, let's talk about your journey from private chef, working for celebrities, helping them build out their meal plans, to then founding this amazing organ-based organ meat seasoning called Pluck, and how that's really helping shape the field and your approach to nutrition and wellness.
Yeah, it's a real blessing. I gotta say, because when I was cooking for celebrities, it was great for the ego, man. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like when you're cooking for Tom Cruise and people hear about it, they immediately just assume you're an amazing chef. You know, you're kind of walking on holy ground. So I just immediately felt lifted ego-wise, yet I still felt unfulfilled. I loved working with these people. I learned a lot. I enjoyed the challenges that those jobs brought. But ultimately, I was very clear when I became a chef, because I became a chef later in life. I didn't start out in kitchens, at 18. I got into it around 30. And I was very clear that I am here to help people. And I wanted to help more than just that 1%, just that a few people. And so I immediately pivoted to a meal delivery service where I thought I could kind of apply my style of cooking and help more people. But I quickly got swamped. And that's because this is out of, I think there's that really good business book. I'm skipping on the name right now, but basically where they talk about how you can be a great baker, but that doesn't mean you know how to run a bake shop. And that was me. Like I had the cooking down, but I did not know how to run a business. So I got swallowed. Like my health went down. I was always working. Sleep was horrible. And which is ironic, and this is true, I think, for many people that are health practitioners or that are trying to help people with their health, their own health is suffering through the efforts of trying to help others. And that was absolutely me. And so it was a real blessing to be able to leave that job, to sell that and then take some time to get my health back, to get my sleep back in order, and take care of my family. We grew by one person, so we had our second daughter then as well, and that's when I got the idea for Pluck. And I definitely credit my wife with supporting me during that time, because that was a crucial moment where I was basically a stay-at-home father for a few years, getting my health back, and I I can't tell people enough how important it is to have like what we call that white space, where you're not just always in your business. You're not always like listening to some device or watching some show, where you're actually just allowing yourself to be in nature, or to be still and quiet, and to focus inward instead of outward, because really great things come when we just create that space. And for me, that was Pluck.
It's just so relatable, probably for so many people listening to this, whether they're in the health field or not. I can speak from the perspective of being a business owner in the health space that's gone really hard at growing a business. And, sometimes there are late nights and early mornings, and, you just have to do what you have to do to make sure that you can go and serve and support other people. So I see that with a lot of our friends in the health space too, doing that. And yeah, it's interesting. And then I'm sure the people that are listening, they might be, whether they're in the health space or not, they might be sacrificing themselves and their health for the pursuit of maybe better pay, or, maybe the new house or the boat or whatever it is. There's no badge of honor for the late nights. That's for sure.
No, I mean, I genuinely feel like I lowered my lifespan about 5 years now. I think I've regained it since then, but had I been one of those people, and I'm sure people listening will identify with this, of just where you're always going. You don't take that time. You don't get sick yet. I mean, let's be honest. Most people don't shift their diet or their health plan. Let's just kind of generalize and call it that, unless they get sick or someone they love gets sick and dies. Like, that's the extreme it takes. And I that makes me sad, because I don't want people to wait till it's that extreme. I want people, what we call, like, don't wait till there's a fire. Like, let's get it even when you start to smell the smoke. I don't even want you to see the smoke yet. I just want you to smell the smoke and then make changes. Like, don't wait, because it's really hard, particularly when you look at functional foods, natural products. It's really hard for those to come in and truly help you when you're at an extreme end of the line, right? Those modalities work really well, but they take time, because they're not, they're nature based, right? Nature works slowly but powerfully. And if you wait till it's too late, I mean, sometimes those modalities just they won't do the job because you're too far gone.
Yeah, I love the Benjamin Franklin quote: "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." And when he said it, he was talking about fire safety, but I think it applies so well to our health too, because it is a lot easier to slow and stop or prevent a health condition from arising. Or if you're looking in the positive frame, it's a lot easier to create the healthy lifestyle, right? Create a healthy and strong foundation versus reacting later on, right? Versus trying to then reverse a condition that you now have, or versus trying to implement all these lifestyle strategies and climb out of a health hole. It is so much easier to be on the side of prevention. And that's why I love what you do. And I love why your mission behind Pluck. So let's talk about Pluck a little bit more. And I know you shared a little bit about what it was, but share what Pluck is, and then share why organ meats, of all things. Why the food that most people only think of their parents or their grandparents eating liver and onions or something like that and being just totally disgusted by it. Some people love it, right? But some people are just like, why organ meats? Why would we do that? Answer that question for us.
Yeah, there's a great quote by Dr. Bill Schindler. He wrote a book called Eat Like a Human, and it's, we are the only species in the world that looks to someone else to tell us what to eat. And that one always floors me, because there's over 9 million species. So clearly we at one point knew how to eat. And I think, if anything, why I created Pluck was because there's a lot of ancestral concepts. There's a lot of ancestral nutrition that we're losing when we don't eat things like organ meats or really like what I like to say is just whole animal. I think we're getting locked into trends. We're getting locked into things that aren't really how we were designed to eat. And so what Pluck is it's freeze-dried and powdered liver, heart, kidney, spleen, and pancreas. And those are the 5 organs we're currently using. We're going to eventually add more like lung. We're going to eventually have a brain product. But the point is that what I'm trying to do is get these very nutrient-dense foods that are in an animal that we're already killing, right? We're already slaughtering cows and other animals. And most of the other world is utilizing the whole animal because they know it's the most nutritious part of that animal. But here in America, as you said, we just get icked out by it. And so what I'm trying to do with Pluck is remove that ick, remove the need to know how to eat or cook it, and also remove the sourcing, because a lot of times people don't even know where to find it. And so what we did was we took those freeze-dried and powdered organ meats, same thing you would find in capsules, but I want to get you to eat it versus swallow it. And we can even talk about that in a little bit. But I took those freeze-dried powdered organ meats, I combined them with salt, I combined them with organic spices and herbs. So now what you have is you have a seasoning. And it's a seasoning that has the organ meats in it, which provides this sort of umami flavor. And umami is our 5th unique taste. So we have salty, sweet, bitter, sour. Those are the 4 we all grew up learning in school. 5th one is one they discovered in the 90s in Japan. And umami is kind of best described as savory. And what happens is it brightens the food. And that's why a lot of ultra-processed food makers, they're adding MSG to their products, because the MSG is the umami flavor. And so it triggers the glutamate triggers the part in your brain to make you want more of the food. And then the umami makes it more flavorful, basically. What's cool about Pluck is that it's naturally doing that. So the organ meats have the umami, the seasonings have lots of really good flavor. And what you're getting is you're getting microdosing of those organ meats every time you use it. You're using it frequently, because that's our hope, is that you like the flavor enough where you're adding it to every meal, every snack, everything you're eating. And now you're getting cumulative effect, which you spoke about lifestyle, healthy lifestyle. And for my money, I truly believe that for something to be a lifestyle or a healthy lifestyle, it has to be in small amounts. I think whenever we're dealing with extremes, we burn out. And you see this all the time, any kind of new health modality. If it's requiring too much of a stretch, you'll do it for only so long, but then your humanness comes right back into play and it drops off. And we default to the things that are easier, that are simple, that are comfort, fit within our comfort zones. So that's what I love about this application, is that we already all season our meals. Everyone seasons to some degree. So all we're suggesting is like just switch, and now you're getting the benefits of these organ meats with this really good flavor.
Hey, it's Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. I want to take one more minute to talk about if you are somebody who was newly diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis, and you're at a point where you're stressed, you're worried, you're overwhelmed, you have no idea where to start or how to get started getting confident in your plan. I want to tell you about the Stronger Bone Solution Program. Over 5,000 people have come through this Stronger Bone Solution Program, and it walks you through the exact process you need to fill in the missing pieces, uncover critical things in your plan that you may not be aware of, and help you make modifications, adjustments, and tweaks to get you to the place where you're building stronger bones. I want you to get confident in your plan so that you can focus on living life and enjoying the life that you deserve with the people you love most. So if that's where you want to be, head over to bonecoach.com/apply and apply for our Stronger Bone Solution Program right now. I'm Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. I want to see you inside this program. I want to help you get on the path to improvement and stronger bones. Hope to see you inside very soon. Let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, and they are delicious. I have them in my pantry.
Sweet.
We sprinkle them on our food. So Pluck is a great seasoning to use. What I love is that you have the background of a chef, but
you also understand the science, the medical side. You know, your wife is also, she's a practitioner. She teaches people. Margaret Floyd Berry, she's a fantastic practitioner, also restorative wellness solutions. She deeply understands the science side too. And I love that you have kind of infused that into the products that you're creating versus some of these other really large companies that are out there. They have entire R&D departments focused on how do we get in there and manipulate the brain with different chemicals and additives and things like that. And you're doing this in a much more natural way. And I love that.
Well, as you mentioned, I've been in the health field as a chef for over 20 years now, and I've seen trends come and go. I mean, I remember when I first got in as a chef, the Fat Flush Diet was the #1 book, and then later on we saw the Master Cleanse, and I just feel like over the last 20 years, I've seen it all. I've seen, veganism change to plant-based. You know what I mean? Like you just see all these different name changes and modalities show up. But the one thing that I have been consistent with that I believe should be the through line for everyone that is not a trend is just eat real food. Like it does not have to be more complicated than that. And I think if anything, it's getting obscenely complicated. I mean, even I'm confused now. Like I'm hearing people say, well, don't eat your vegetables. It's like, what? Like I've literally spent the last 45 years being told to eat vegetables. Like why is this all of a sudden this new trend? And I love actually going back to like that ancestral way of thinking and eating. And this is something Bill Schindler. So Bill Schindler, the person I quoted earlier, he's a food archaeologist. And one of the things we really agree on is that when we're talking about food, it's not really about what food. We want real food, but it's more about how. And I think that's a part of the conversation people forget. And so, for example, when I was in culinary school, one of the things that we were really taught around how to make nuts and seeds, for example, more bioavailable, less harmful to you and more nutritious was you would soak them first. Literally just soaking them sometime, depending on the nut or seed, for 24 hours or less. It just depends. If it's cashews, a lot less. And then that would actually, if you even went a little further, you could sprout it, which basically opens that nut and seed up so that it feels like it thinks it's in the soil. And so now it's releasing its defenses and it's going to start to sprout. But then that's when you get to eat it. So when it's defenseless and now it's the most nutritious, and then you can lightly roast it. You can control what ingredients you use. Instead of using iodine, iodized salt, you can use your own salt, sea salt, whatever it is, or any, I love putting Pluck on the nuts. We call them Pluck nuts, and it's so delicious. But it's like, that's just one example of how you do it will reveal the nutritional denseness that you can pull from that item. But a lot of people will just say, oh, no, don't eat nuts and seeds. It's like, what? Like, no, we've been eating them for thousands of years. Like, this is not a new real food. It's available to us. We just got to rethink how we do it.
So let's talk about, why do we need organ meats for our health and for our bones?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, specifically with bone health, I mean, and now you're the expert, but I mean, they're rich in K2, right? And K2 is also known as Activator X. Activator X is, it's basically ensuring calcium is properly deposited into bones. So right there, that is a huge win, right? And you're getting K2 in things like liver is one of the best sources, but you're also, a lot of people don't realize that when I talk about the whole animal, we're talking, really another word for organ meats is offal or awful. I like saying offal because the awful part obviously makes people go, oh yeah, that's how it tastes. But basically, I like to think of it as like it's everything but the bone and the muscles. So when we're talking about organs, we're not just talking about the liver. We're talking about spleen, pancreas. There's thymus. There's glands. There's the hooves, or even something we would, ossobuco is the tail. So there's so many different parts of the animal that are providing these nutritious vitamins and minerals. But so you have vitamin K2, which is activator X. You have collagen and gelatin. You know, a lot of people, if you're ever making bone broth, for example, one of the best ways to make a gelatinous bone broth, to make it look like Jell-O, is to add chicken feet. Chicken feet are incredibly gelatinous. So
rinse those bad boys off first.
Yeah, rinse them off.
Boil those bad boys first.
But chicken feet are great. And then of course making sure that you're using joint bones. Those will also produce really good bone broth. But yeah, organ meats are going to be high in the collagen and gelatin. You also have CoQ10, which is, if you're anyone that's dealing with cardiovascular support, CoQ10 is probably something you've heard of. Well, it's prominent in heart, beef heart. And CoQ10 is going to be, any cardiovascular support is going to be for that. And then, of course, you're going to be getting your bone density support supercharged with things like copper and zinc and phosphorus. And those are all found in organ meats. I like to, though, think about that, yes, organ meats are kind of Mother Nature's multivitamin. But what I find interesting is that a lot of people are doubtful that they can get something from it. And my question back to people will be, well, why wouldn't you? You know, this concept of getting supplements, food supplemented from laboratory made or laboratory isolated, vitamins or minerals, and you swallowing this process, that's a newer process than people just getting the nutrients from their food. The fact that we have so many ultra processed foods available to us now, that's a newer thing. Whereas if you think about it, when someone would go on a hunt, right? If we were a small tribe and a handful of people would go for the hunt, what they would normally do is they would fast, because fasting is going to heighten their senses. It's going to hopefully, help them slaughter that animal or catch that animal faster. While they're fasting, they're getting more and more depleted, but it's getting more heightened. Once they kill that animal, the first thing they need to do is get some sustenance. And what they would normally do is eat the liver raw or the heart, because they knew that was like a that to me, that's the equation of, like, you go into like a 7-Eleven, you see those emergencies, and you're feeling sick, and they're like, oh, let me power punch that to get it, immune boost. Like, that's basically, they were using real food to get that boost. Now, this also feeds the concept of why I'm always talking about whole animal versus just liver, because what we're seeing right now is the trend of people eating ribeyes and liver. And it's like, well, if those hunters brought back that food to our tribe, they most likely already ate the liver. So there's really not much liver left. And there's a lot more than just ribeye. So this idea that they would waste all the animal and just give everyone, the ribeye, or just give them the liver is kind of absurd. And to me, it's, once again, it's just a trend. It's trend thinking, and it's not realistic. Every society, historically, ancestrally, has utilized the entire animal, because you use you use your 100% of that resource, or as much of it as you can. And we live in a society now that when we don't use the organs of the animal and most of that animal, and I've gone to slaughterhouses and verified this, that equates to basically just throwing away 50% of the resource.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, I see so many people be incredibly wasteful with animals, and if they're doing it right and they're good stewards of the environment and the animals and their own health, they're going to use, especially hunters, like people who have hunters in their families. I used to hunt when I was younger too, and I did learn that you should use the entire animal and honor it, respect it, and that should be part of that process versus being wasteful and just seeing things as scraps. And I love that. I love the concept of the whole body nutrition and consuming all parts of the animal.
And I get it, though, that, these things are icky. We live in we're disassociated from our food sources now. I get it. We're not all hunters, right? And that's really what I'm trying to solve, is like, I'm not trying to say we all have to be hunters and gatherers. We have to go back to that ancestral way and kind of be that in our modern lives. Modern life is just, that's not what it is. I get it. But I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. We should still take those ancestral foods and just bring them into our modern life. And that's really like, we have the technology of freeze drying. So that's what we're utilizing. When you take a raw organ and you freeze dry it, you're taking 100% and it goes down about 20 to 21%. So you're losing a lot of mass just from the water weight. And it also means it's incredibly concentrated. And so that is a great resource. And it's preserved, right? You can keep it on, Pluck is something you don't have to put in your refrigerator, and same with capsules. You don't have to, you keep that in your cabinet. And it will last for a long time, sometimes between a year and 2 years. So these are resources we absolutely should use, but we got to still get those foods in our diet, because what's happening is we're wasting about 50% of that animal, just gets trashed, thrown away. But then we're nutrient deficient. It's something like 94%. This is a 2015 study, but I actually think it's higher now, probably closer to 95. But the study, I think it was 92% in 2015. So it's probably closer to 94 or 95 now. And that study showed that, Americans are nutrient deficient with one or more vitamins, that 92%. So what we're doing is we're only eating specific parts of that animal, and then we're turning around in our nutrient deficiency and we're just supplementing it with capsules or pills. And to me, that just seems wasteful. It's like, why don't we just get those nutrients from that animal, get them from Mother Nature's beautiful creation? Like, one thing that when you talk about supplements, let's just take iron, for example. Iron used to just come as in the form of just iron. They didn't pair it with anything. And they later learned that, people can't just absorb iron alone, right? And so all these people were taking these iron pills and not absorbing it. What's beautiful about organ meats is it's as Mother Nature intended. So everything, all the cofactors, all the combination of the vitamins and minerals are in the form that are most absorbable in our body. And that to me is priceless.
Yeah. And one of the other most important nutrients for organ meats, and it does have a relation to bone health and osteoporosis, is vitamin A. Vitamin A is actually really important for bone health and osteoporosis, because if you have a deficiency of vitamin A, that can be associated with an increased risk of osteoporosis. But also vitamin A plays a role in bone turnover, the process of bone remodeling. So bone being broken down and bone being formed. So organ meats are a rich source of vitamin A. And vitamin A is great for a ton of other areas for your health, but specifically for bone health, that's another vote for it. So
absolutely. Yes. And I want to stress to people that I'm not just here to, plug Pluck. That you can actually get, you can use our seasoning. That's probably the easiest way to do it, but there's other ways as well. I mean, you can easily go and buy ground meats that already have organ meats in them. They don't have all the organs we do, but they usually have liver and heart. Those are usually the two that they have. You can also go to farmers markets or to your local resource for organs and just buy, let's say, liver whole, right? And usually it will come frozen. It will be pretty big. And what you can do is just cut it into like a manageable size, or leave it whole, whichever, but keep it in your freezer. And then every time you're eating any kind of ground meat, whether it's turkey, lamb, or beef, whatever you're eating, just pull that liver out and grate it using a cheese grater, and just grate about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons max for a pound of meat. And you can just slowly incorporate those organ meats into your diet, and you will feel it. I mean, it's incredible the feedback we get even from a product like Pluck. People tell me their skin issues have gone away, energy, where their energy was kind of like all up and down and usually down. They regulated their energy, sleep improved. The one I hear the most is around kid health, and then also around prenatal health. This one person reached out. This was a lovely story, but she said that basically she just had her third kid. The first two she had hemorrhaging, and very low milk supply. And with her third kid, the only thing she did different was she used Pluck from beginning to even currently. And her milk supply is abundant, and she had no hemorrhaging, and her midwife was very adamant of like how healthy the placenta looks. So they have huge health implications, very positive health implications. And it's as simple as just getting them in your diet.
Let's talk about some, if somebody is using Pluck, what I'm going to do is I am going to link to Pluck underneath here, because I do think it's something great. It's something I personally use. The kids love it. And I want people to understand. I mean, you mentioned one little recipe earlier, Pluck nuts, but maybe what are some other ways that they're like, okay, I want to incorporate organ meats, whether you're going to the farmer's market or you're going online and you're getting some organic liver. I can tell you, I did that for a long time too. And I still do that occasionally. I do look for easier ways. I am pretty busy too. So I am looking for easier ways to get these things in. So maybe you can share a couple of your favorite Pluck recipes. Like if somebody were to get Pluck, how are they going to incorporate this into their diet? What does that look like?
Yeah, I always, I now say Pluck is easy peasy without the queasy, since a lot of people are grossed out by organs. Yeah, if organ meats are the, gateway to nutritional abundance, Pluck is definitely, as you mentioned, it's just so easy. It's very kid friendly. And what I love about it is that really anything you can salt, you can Pluck. So you really don't have to distinguish like, well, what should I do it on? Like it's funny because a lot of people will just put it on beef, or they'll find that one food like eggs, and they'll just put it on eggs, and they'll love it, and they'll always put it on their eggs. But I'm like, don't stop there, because you really benefit. It's micro amounts because it's seasoning, right? We're only using pinches at a time, between an eighth of a teaspoon to maybe a half a teaspoon at a time, right? So you're only going to get the benefit if you use it often. And really, like we'll tell people, like, try it on popcorn. It's incredible on popcorn. Try it like I've made salads and I just sprinkle it over the salad, just like I would salt if I was salting something. Potatoes, any protein, whether it's tofu to fish to chicken to lamb, any of it. Tacos, anytime you're making ground meats. The vegetables. I mean, it's kind of amazing that it's endless. I mean, even if you're, let's say, having a party and you want to wow people, and let's say you're making a cheese plate, sprinkle some of it on the cheese. Just choose one of them, and I guarantee that will be the cheese that people eat the most of. And it's a good seasoning, as we've talked about, but it's that umami. It brightens the food. It makes the food taste better. We get the comment all the time of the only thing the person did differently for the meal that night was just use Pluck. And that night their family wanted seconds. They kept complimenting them on their food. So I joke with people, I'm like, well, if you want to be seen as a better chef, just use Pluck, and don't tell anyone you're using Pluck. Like, they'll just think your food just got amazing.
Yeah, I think that is a key. Don't tell them what's in the seasoning to start. Have people try it out, understand that it tastes good. This is what I did with my kids. Didn't tell them up front what it actually was, because what happens, and you may be this way, or you may know somebody who's this way, I know I do, is that you tell them what's in there and they're like, oh no, I'm not doing that. That's disgusting. But then if they would have just tried it, they would realize how delicious that thing is, or how good for them it could be. So yeah, I would let it be a surprise.
Yeah, I agreed. We have to get past the mindset first. And what? Let's even dispel one of the myths, right? So one of the myths of why people think it's gross, specifically with the liver, is they think, oh, well, that's a detoxification organ. Like that's where the toxins are stored. And that's not at all the case. If you think about it, we really do live in a toxic soup. I mean, our world now, from air quality to soil to water to food, it's filled with toxins, from heavy metals to toxins. And if our liver and our kidneys did not operate optimally, we would be dead. So this idea of people thinking like, well, it stores toxins. If that was true, we wouldn't be, you and I would not be talking now. We would have all died at 12, who knows how long it would have taken us, but we would be dead, because the organs are there. So what they're actually doing is they're taking those toxins, and they're making them water soluble so they can leave your body. They leave our body through poop, through pee, through sweat. Now, if your elimination pathways are not working properly, yes, your toxins will get stored in your body, but it doesn't get stored in the factory where it's getting, like where you need to stay alive. It gets stored in your fat. And that's ultimately what's happening. So anyone, for example, that's overweight, obesely overweight, even you have to be careful when you go to lose that weight, because those toxins are in your fat potentially, and they can make you very sick if you lose that weight too fast, because your whole system is flushed with those toxins. So I'm always telling people, like, you really, anytime you're detoxing, you got to make sure your elimination pathways are working. We should be peeing daily, multiple times daily. We should be pooping daily. You should be sweating, things like that. So don't get confused and think that the organs that are keeping you alive, that are operationally optimal, would be storing something that would make them not operational optimal. I guess what I'm ultimately trying to say is the body is miraculous. This human body is truly amazing. So let's not undermine it. Let's not pretend it's not, because it really is.
Hey, it's Bone Coach Kevin Ellis. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Bone Coach Show. If you're finding it helpful, please leave a positive rating and review. Hit that like button, subscribe to the podcast or the channel. That lets us help more people and reach and serve more people. And it also lets us know that this is helpful to you on your journey to better health and stronger bones. And then also, right down in the show notes, you can actually find a link to my free Bone Healthy Recipes Guide. That's going to give you access to some amazing and delicious recipes to support your journey to stronger bones. And then also, we have a link to my free Stronger Bones Masterclass in the show notes too. And that is the 3-step process that has helped people in over 1,500 cities around the world get confident in their plan for stronger bones. Over 110,000 people have taken part in this, and it's been really, really helpful for them. And I want you to have free access to it too. So add your name and email right down there in the show notes, get access to that free Stronger Bones Masterclass, and let's get you confident in your Stronger Bones plan today. James, I couldn't agree more with you. Any other things that you want to share before we tell people where they can find you? Anything else you want to share that you think is important for the audience to hear?
Well, we have some really great. We have a great blog with some articles talking about the benefits of organs around support with prenatal. Heavy metals and salts. So we're really trying to take any of these concerns and or confusions and really break them down. And we have citations around that. So going to our website at eatpluck.com we have recipes, we have articles, and then we also have a podcast as well. And we're constantly just trying to support people in their health from all those different angles.
I love that. And okay, so eatpluck.com, we're gonna link to that in the show notes. And where else? I know, so you have your own personal page too. So let's tell people where they can find you also.
Yeah, so I'm on socials at Chef James Berry, and then you can find Pluck at Eat Pluck. And I just want to, before we go, I do want to just say one thing around that kind of swallowing capsules versus eating. Like I mentioned why that was important to me. So ancestrally, we have this neurolingual response, and it's been developed for a long time now. It's basically our senses. It's how the process of eating something, of how that communicates to our body. And we can use salt as an example. If I put salt on your tongue, your body will not let me put too much. It will actually change. Your taste buds will change the flavor. The salt will get more and more intense, or it will taste worse the more you put on your tongue. And that's your body communicating, hey, you're overloading me with sodium. You got to stop, right? That's what we get when we eat salt. But if you swallow a salt tablet, you get zero communication. it's a delayed communication. And usually what shows up is you feel bloated, or you don't know why you feel nauseous. I hear this all the time with organ capsules, for example. They'll take 6 because that's what the bottle tells them to take, and they didn't feel nauseous. And I'm like, well, yeah. Because how does a bottle know what your body needs? And B, you weren't eating it. Your body would have told you to stop had you been eating it. So I am a big fan of, and it goes back to that quote I provided earlier about how we're the only species looking at someone else to tell us what to eat. The only way to reconnect to our ancestral knowledge is by eating the food, and not just eating it quickly, but eating it slowly, eating it mindfully. So that's what I would offer everyone moving forward, is just take time as you eat your food, and don't rush it. Sit down and try to really chew and be thinking about some of the things we talked about the sacrifices that were made for this food to be on your table, to be going into your food, whether it's the animal that sacrificed its life, or the workers that worked the fields, whatever it may be in your situation. But bringing that mindfulness, I really do believe, will help reconnect us to what our body needs.
Beautiful. James Berry, thank you so much. This was super informative and helpful. I love what you're doing. I love Pluck. I personally use it. You have my recommendation for it. I'm going to link to eatpluck.com in the show notes. We'll also link to James's resources as well. So he's on Instagram. He's got this podcast, which I was just on, Everyday Ancestral. That's the podcast, right? Which was great. I love the format of your podcast. It's unique. It's a different kind of dialogue, different kind of questions, some of the things you were asking me. So if you should go over and check James's podcast out, where he was asking me some different questions from like a business perspective and a military perspective and leadership and some other things like that, beyond just the health stuff that I normally talk about too. So that was really fascinating. So go check out James' podcast, Everyday Ancestral too.
Yeah, it was great having you on as a guest. That was a great conversation.
Yeah. And so for everybody listening, thanks so much. You can find all the resources, show notes, everything mentioned here today over at BoneCoach.com. We'll see you in the next episode.
Hey, it's BoneCoach Kevin Ellis. Hope you found that episode helpful and that you enjoyed it. Just one last reminder, if you haven't done so already, head over to BoneCoach.com, sign up for your free 7-day osteoporosis kickstart. It's going to tell you everything you need to do to start getting on the path to improvement. Hope you found this helpful. I'm your BoneCoach Kevin Ellis. I'll see you soon.